Hello, everyone. It's myself, Daniel Kennedy from the Wealth Dragons and the KML Group, and here I'm joined by
Nguyen. Hello, everybody.
just tell them a bit about your company.
Well, so I work with a few agencies. The main one being Multilet and Daniel Hill, and we tenant find and manage HMOs around the country. So myself with Rana, my colleague Rana, we take care of the Birmingham branch.
Fantastic. Right, now I'm just going to share it into various places. So, share
I said Daniel Kennedy. I met Daniel Hill.
You thought I was Danny Hill?
No, I was meant to say Daniel Hill. Is it Daniel Kennedy?
You got my name wrong. At least it's not.
No. I said your name instead of Dan Hill's name.
Oh no, you said Daniel Hill.
Did I say Daniel Hill?
Yeah,
okay.
for sure.
Okay.
For sure. Mind if I shout on your time?
Yeah, you go for it.
Right, that's that one. And then when I actually begin the podcast, I press record on the anchor.
Okay.
So then the people who are listening, they get more of a seamless experience as opposed to they get this like, because at the beginning of the video, they're all a bit jumbled like this.
Yeah.
And then so now that it's all shared, we'll try and get more people on. So we've got a few here. And then I start the recording for the podcast now, and then we start again and do an introduction. All right, guys, just bear with me while I start the introduction, and then we'll begin the podcast. Hello, and welcome to your Wednesday dose of wealth wisdom with me, Daniel Kennedy, and I am hosting the fantastic
Nguyen with Multilet Birmingham.
And today we're going to talk about how to set yourself apart as a tenant finder within a competitive market. So, thank you all for joining us. I'm going to be asking him a few questions because I thought I knew my market really, really well. And we had a unit that was struggling to let. And we'd dressed the rooms, we'd done multiple things, and it wasn't letting. And then we met via the accountability meeting. And then within 3 days, he had managed to secure two really, really good tenants for 2 rooms. And so I was like, well, I need to get this guy on, learn all that I can possibly do, all I possibly can from him, and then take him out as a competitor.
Honestly, that's what I like about you.
Okay, so thanks, Charles, for joining us. Thanks, Amar. Thanks, Matthew. Thanks, Pavan. So I want to just get your opinion, basically. First of all, about saturation within the book, because we're both based in Birmingham, just to let you know. And that's where we're going to be focusing the talk around. And I'd like to get your opinion on saturation in Birmingham and your thoughts on it.
I don't think the Birmingham market is saturated. If anything, I think there's a lot more opportunities. I mean, I've grown up in Birmingham all my life, and I've been to a lot of other places around the country. Comparatively, there seems to be a lot more activity in Birmingham than there are in other places. If you drive around the Birmingham city centre now, it's flat. It's a living construction site. There's cranes everywhere. Buildings are knocked down, and every few months there'll be like a brand new set of apartments that are shot up in the city centre, and the road and the infrastructure is completely changing as well, and you know, that's quite telling of where the city itself is going. So no, I think if anything, there's a lot of opportunities. You know, if not just the HMO market, then certainly the SA market as well. So I mean, it'll change, but if anything, there's a lot more opportunities. Certain markets will saturate. Certain locations are saturated.
So I would echo your thoughts there. I think the HMO market at the lower end is completely saturated.
Yeah.
I'm seeing so many crap HMOs.
Yeah, 350 rooms.
Yeah, 350, £400.
Yeah.
they're just really, really like low standard, and there just isn't the market for it out there. But I'm finding with the higher end stuff, it goes really quickly. Your ensuite rooms, clean, like because the bar is so low in Birmingham for competitors. I'm finding that if you just clean the room, have a clean house, it lets immediately, and the rent you'll get are £500 upwards.
Yeah, I think it's because the market itself is maturing. So people who have rented before and have that experience, they're now expecting a bit more. Actually, of your properties, they're really good. So I think that's probably why
you kind of have to say that, though, don't you?
No, I mean honestly, when I saw the one that you
struggling to let, Bartley Green.
Well, yeah, that one. You see, when I was there, and I thought, oh, that's a really good development. I honestly didn't think there'll be any reason for that for you to struggle to let that property. And I think that was more to do with how it's done, rather the marketing and the letting process, rather than the development or location itself. So that was really interesting. So I think the development itself was actually really, really good. It's just the letting process.
Yeah, personally, I get a bit panicky when a room comes up in that house.
Really?
Yeah, I know that feeling. Mostly, it's fine. I know it's going to get let. I'm not too concerned about it.
Yeah.
But in that house, I get a bit like, oh, I'm going to find the next one.
If it reassures you, because we do a lot of tenant find and a lot of letting, a lot of management for HMOs around the city. They all let at some point. It's just it's presenting the property. B, it's having the right price. Anything sells at the right price. And C, it's actually just having a good agent involved, somebody who can pick up the leads and then direct them to the right property.
What I find interesting about yourself is how you actually find tenants. You don't let tenants book a room, do you? You don't let them book their property. No. They have to come to you. You have to have a chat with them. Yeah. And then you decide which property would be a good fit for this tenant.
Yeah.
And like to invest that amount of time into do it for every single person, because you spend half a day with each tenant, don't you, normally?
Yeah, so I'm going to use the S word, systemize.
I'm glad it was that word and not
demonetize. Systemize as much as you can, have processes in place, but it's not as complicated as it sounds. Systemize just means having, for example, having a text template of your default messages. Tenants are always going to ask you the same sort of questions. If you've got your messages all laid out, you can just copy and paste certain questions, and then you've got your chase up messages. Then you've got your sort of sell messages, where you send them, or you've got your sort of lead generation messages. It goes through a sales chain, and then you add them to the calendar. So you add them to Google Calendar.
Well, let me tell you, just quickly interject there. My life has been revolutionized by adopting this man's way of setting out his day. Let me just show you the camera of what I do now because of this gentleman here. So we're in a group where we talk about goals and systemizing and talk about whatever we want to do that week. And then this is how I organize my day now. And you can't see a thing. There you go. I book for appointments. I have time to travel. I book in when I'm going to get up. I book in when I'm going to go to sleep. I book in these, and I'm so much more efficient. And I'm allowed, because I've organized my time in such a manner, following T's way, I have more time to actually relax as well, even though I'm getting more done. So it's pretty good. Organize your life, systemize.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing you haven't done as much yet is actually also use WhatsApp. So I find that saves me a lot of time. And if people use WhatsApp, they think I don't like texting. Use WhatsApp Web, which is WhatsApp but on a web browser. So what I do is I get the leads from various websites, mostly Spare Room, and get them to add me onto WhatsApp straight away. And that way, I kind of I get them to buy in to. I get them to commit to me as the agent, and then from there, I go through the process of send them various messages, and then we go through the whole sales process, and then I find out what it is that they want, through, I send them a list of available properties. I find out what they want. And then from that, I would recommend to them properties I think would suit what they're specifically looking for. A lot of them, they'll say, I'm looking for this. And I can pretty much tell them straight away that property is not going to be suitable. And they appreciate the honesty. And they I've been in the business long enough to know what people are looking for. And I think that saves them a lot of time, saves me a lot of time, but they see that level of honesty, and then they trust me more to recommend to them the right property for them. And then that's how I'm able to match them up to the right landlord, you see. So and it's worth it. It's a bit longer, but you're building that relationship.
In your experience, which properties let out quicker? Is it the cheaper ones or the more higher end ones?
Ooh.
The ones that provide more facilities? What are people looking for? Are they looking for the high end product with the ensuite room, the 4 double plug sockets, the USB cables, or are they looking for the bog standard, get the most for my money? I just want a roof over my head.
There is a market for both. The higher end ones, most people would generally ask for ensuite rooms, but they're more expensive, and so that cuts off your access to a lot of other people on the market looking for rooms. There are a lot of people looking for 350 pound rooms. There's also a lot of people looking for 400 pound rooms. Obviously, there are a lot of people looking for 500 pound rooms, but then you're slowly narrowing down what type of tenants you have access to. You can quite easily do a lower end or a cheaper room that doesn't have all the facilities, but you have to make sure that it's done in a nice and presentable way. That's really the only difference. And then obviously make sure you don't ask too much. Make sure you offer a lot of value in that property. So all our rooms, for example, are 380, 400 and 420.
Is that your personal HMOs?
Yeah, they are really nice rooms, solid and really well presented, and they're ran and they're managed really well. Those are good rent because we didn't spend a lot of money on them, and they represent good value for money. So
is that the market you're aiming for, the mid-range?
Yeah. It's just, I've posted pictures up on my Facebook page. They're just nice rooms, the nice solid rooms, and people often can't afford to pay more, but they still want a nice room. And I think the difference is, so what I'm competing against is the low end market where it's 380 or 350, but they're awful, and you can tell they're awful. So they're prepared to pay a bit more, but not too much more.
Right. Another subject that I think happens quite a lot, but I get probably 2/3 of the tenants who come up and view the room and say, "Oh my God, it actually looks like the pictures."
Yeah.
That is a huge trend where I think, especially in Birmingham, you get landlords or landladies putting up pictures that aren't their properties, and they turn up. So to have the culture where it's actually a bit of a shock when they turn up and see the room actually looks like it does in the pictures.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you false advertise?
Nope.
Just to get the leads in?
No, I think get nice pictures at the start. When you've just finished the property, that's all well and good because that represents the property as it is. So, I'm taking viewings with tenants throughout the prospective tenants throughout the day, and I don't want to be standing there after showing them 3 rooms in a row or 4 rooms in a row for every room to look different to what it is on the advert. Because just being honest, really.
Yeah. Okay.
That's just really awkward. And then I will then go on to introduce them to the landlord or the agency, or I manage them myself. And you're already starting off on the wrong footing. And then they will come back to me. So if there's ever an issue, because we formed that relationship based on trust from the get-go, and because I found them the right property for them, they will come back to me if there's any issues. Make sure that room and that property is dressed and looking good and always in a high standard, but don't don't false advertise. If anything, it's encouragement to keep the property up.
Bear with me a minute. So next question I've got for yourself. If you're a landlord and you're not sell that room, that you could improve it without spending too much money on the unit. Because what I'm finding, especially, is that a lot of the HMO landlords that are being kicked out from the market because of Clause 24, with the new regulations, the new licenses, they're just wanting too much for the HMOs. So on the flip side, they've got these empty HMOs that aren't letting. How do you approach those rooms?
Firstly, if they can, I'm very relationship based. So what I enjoy about the property business is that I get to choose who I work with. And when I work with a landlord or investor, I want to make sure that they achieve their goals. Now, to do that, they're going to need to listen to advice. And if I think the best way for them to achieve their goal is to do something, like spend a bit of money on painting the walls or getting new carpets in, then that's what they will need to do. And if if a landlord comes to me and says, "Oh, I really want you to do these things," and I make some recommendations and they don't do it, then I'm wasting my time and I'm wasting their time, and I wouldn't work with them. So to go back to the question, they're going to need to most likely get a cleaner in, deep clean, get the maintenance guy in, fill the holes. If necessary, repaint the place, just redecorate. If the carpets are old and manky, get rid of the carpets. Those are in terms of cost and benefits.
Narrow it down to 5 things. You've got deep clean, maintenance guy, fill in the holes, new carpets,
redecorate,
so repaint the walls.
And those are the things that will impact on a tenant when they walk into new properties. You've got that fresh smell that makes a great impression. And then it's furniture. I think those should be it really, because that's all the visuals, that's all the senses taken care of in that property. Liquor paint. There you go. Liquor paint.
For me, I'm going to add something to that. And when a tenant leaves the room, it's pretty standard for us. We change the carpets because it's so cheap to do so. 85 quid for a roll, and then I'll do it myself. We will re-silicone the bathroom, take out the old silicone and put new silicone in it. We will change the mattress normally because they're only 100 quid again, really, really small. Like the cost of an empty room is £500 per calendar month, where we can spend £250 on a room and it will look like it did when it was first developed, because we can do most of the stuff ourselves. So yeah, I would always try and keep that standard as high as you possibly can, because empty rooms cost you more than spending money on a room to get it up to that standard, I feel. So if you've got an empty room for 2 months and you've not got it to, and for the cost of a carpet and a mattress, which is 185 quid, you can let that room a lot quicker.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think some people, they're a bit too greedy when it comes to rent, and they'll rather hold out, which makes it doesn't make them very flexible. And sometimes they could be a really good tenant who wants to take the room, and they can afford, they can only afford £20 less than the asking price. But if that's what the room is worth in that current climate, then that room should be let out for that price. So waiting out and having a void for 2 months is I don't think that's the right way to go about doing it, because you're losing £1,000, and £1,000 or make £20 less over 6 months. Those figures don't stack up. I mean, you spend you put a lot of effort into your rooms for a new tenant. I mean, like new carpet, new walls, and and mattress, that's like,
You say it's a lot of
that's-
effort. It's not really that much for myself because I've learnt the skills. If I was to pay someone, it's probably about £500-600.
Yeah,
But because we can do it ourselves,
but you can add value. Yourself.
It's and because of my model's a bit different.
Yeah.
The quicker I can pay the investor back, the quicker I get paid. So I'm happy to go and learn those skills and try and keep the
but that's great though,
bottom line lower.
Yeah, because you're adding a massive amount of value to that whole situation. I mean, you know, if a tenant comes in and they're seeing, wow, new carpets, you can smell it, you can smell, and you look at the mattress and oh, that's brand new, and they always do that thing where they sit on it and kind of bounce up and down. That's a really good service. You know, that's a really good high quality service for the tenant. And me as the agent, when I know that that's the landlord or investor, or you know, I know that that's what they're like, I believe in that product. I can sell it to that tenant or prospective tenant a lot easier because, you know, I think this is genuinely really good for you, and I really think you should go for it. All things considered, you know, based on our previous chats, this is a good landlord. You guys are gonna get along great, and that's, you know. So
big no-nos in selling a room, bad things that people do that you see countless times. I think you like, say you see other pictures. And
you mean ads?
Yeah, stuff that doesn't draw leads. For me, a big one is obviously fake pictures, which I think is quite prominent in our market.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, with the pictures, when the pictures are obviously photoshopped, I mean, you know, we're talking about sort of model pictures. I think tenants have just clicked onto it. You know, they know that if anything, they'll catch the eye and they'll think, that's, you know, that's not reality. So they'll question it. But if you put a good picture, but it's, you know, that looks more like a real room that you'd live in, I think they will be more trusting towards you straight away. They're more likely to message you. But in terms of bad things, not having pictures, shocking amount of ads don't have pictures, or really, you know, really dark, fuzzy, sort of blurry pictures, non-concise information on the ads. They're not very good, or ads that just have too much information. I think for me personally, the worst one is people who just aren't very communicative or not very personable. So, you know, they don't engage with the prospective tenant in a polite and courteous way, and in a professional way. I think being responsive and being professional is probably the key, you know, the key aspect of lead generation.
So for me, there's two personalities. You have the professional one, and you sort of like have Bob Builder, who's your mate around the corner, who's also the landlord. Which persona do you reckon gets more leads?
Both. Okay, so yeah, sorry.
Very concise advice here, guys.
All right,
we're good at that.
It's a human interaction. So you have to be professional because it's an internet, so nobody knows each other. So you're talking to some random person on the internet, and they're talking to a random person on the internet. So you have to build that confidence in them. So you have to show professionalism. You know, you have to be responsive. You have to show. You have to be courteous, and that builds a lot of confidence in them and a lot of trust as well in this, you know, sort of potential relationship. Once you've done that, then you can just talk like a human being, because at the end of the day, they also pick up on the sales tactics that a lot of people do, a lot of people use. You know, you can tell when somebody's trying to sell you something. And personally, I try to avoid coming across too salesy. So, you know, a nice, personable approach to a potential lead. Have your text written in a professional way, but with just nice, soft language. And then it's just it's just talking to them in a tone as if you're talking to your cousin, let's say. That's probably the best thing.
Hi, Liam. Thanks for joining us. And we have a question. Do you use professional photos in your adverts? Yeah, that's to you. Do you use professional photos in your adverts? Me personally, I don't. I just use the Samsung S9 and it seems to do the job. This glorious this phone here.
If there are professional photos and if they represent the property and the rooms as they are in their current condition, then yes. But over time, once the properties start to kind of get a bit older and more lived in, then you need to just use a good camera, good camera phone, take a picture like you do. Make sure you use Photoshop or something along those lines just to increase the brightness, increase the contrast, make sure you dress the room properly, but make sure it's a true representation of the product of the room that the tenant is going to get.
So for us as well, on the advice of T, we now dress our rooms. We didn't dress our rooms before because they were getting filled up, but nowhere near towards the sort of like urgency that the tenants want to move in now. So when the tenant walks in, it is exactly like it is in the pictures in terms of same bedspread, same cushions, same pillows, etc. Same plastic plant that we have, same lights, lamp. A lamp really does change the room as well, the sort of mood of the room.
A tip with the lamp, actually, if you can use a lamp that produces some sort of lighting effect, that actually adds to the mood of the room, like you said. Yeah, so not a standard sort of bright lamp, but a lamp with something interesting.
Yeah. And one thing that we like to do is we very opposite to T, we'll do it in groups and we'll say, listen, we've got another group after you, and we'll use scarcity. We'll really play on scarcity. We're really not going to struggle to let this room. Inside, I'm like, please take it, please. I'll do anything, just take the room.
When I sign you up now.
But on the outside, I'm like, we've got another group. This will go this weekend, and then on Monday, I'm like, do you still want the room?
Although to be fair,
following up.
Yeah. Although to be fair, it does also happen. Somebody will say, I want the room, and then some other person is there deliberating, and then it's like, okay, I want the room, and it's like, sorry, actually, that room has been taken. So it is a fair thing to say somebody is interested in because and somebody might take the room, because it does happen surprisingly frequent, actually.
If you guys have any questions, do just drop them in the comments, and then I will get T to answer them. He really is the specialist in terms of finding a tenant that's right for the property. He'll do it faster than anyone. He'll make sure the tenant is a good fit for the house, and a service that we've used here at KML, and it's really, really been useful for us. The subject of today is basically how to find tenants, because in a market where I think Birmingham is completely saturated at the lower end, whereas the higher end tenants are quite a less sort of volume of tenants that you can draw upon. So it is beginning to get a little bit competitive, but still plenty of opportunity in Birmingham to find properties at the higher end of the market. And as we are the youngest population in the UK in terms of the cities, the mean age is the lowest in the country. More people are opening up to living in HMOs because the apartments are fairly expensive. I'm finding Birmingham as a city is becoming more and more like London in terms of the bad areas are beginning to get good. Not all of them. We still have awful areas that I wouldn't go near. But I can pretty much see the journey that the council are trying to take Birmingham on. We've got massive companies moving their HQs to Birmingham. We've got the HS2 that's going to be the hub basically of the whole country. And there's plenty of opportunities. If you want to get involved, how can people connect with you?
Actually, just send me a message on Facebook, and then most likely I'll give my number, and then they'll just send me a message on WhatsApp. That's probably the easiest. Because
you don't just provide tenant service finding, do you?
No. So I help develop portfolios as well, and project manage, and then obviously let, and then we do full management as well. So the whole package is there for the investor to just be completely hands off, really. So they don't have to spend too much time on the whole thing.
Nice. So if you're interested in investing in Birmingham, drop T a line. For here at the KML Group, we only source properties because really the properties that I'm aiming for are in my chosen area and are going to be HMO. So I don't like sourcing too many of them out because I'm creating my own competition. So I've got like offers out on every property in my area that I want. And if we're in the middle of lots of projects and one comes in, I'll then source it on. But typically, I don't go around sourcing property deals or sourcing HMOs or developing HMOs for other people. It's only on rare occasion, and I've kind of already got my list. But if you're interested in wanting to get involved in HMOs, you'd be more than welcome to come and take a look at a few of our developments, have a chat, and see if we could source. Because the type of properties that we're going to do, it's not going to be cheap. It's going to be a real sort of like moderate cost in terms of development. So you need to have a big chunk of money behind you, because I'm not going to put my name to something that isn't in par with what KML has been producing elsewhere in the city. But so if you want to get involved, drop us a line, and thanks for joining us. We've got a few questions here.
Yeah, can I quickly say something about the
okay, let me just check.
Properties?
Certainly, 1 minute. Go for it.
So to get a room let, make sure you have a good, high quality bed dressing. I think that's essentially what's going to separate you from the competition. You can just have, you don't have to spend loads and loads of money. Just make sure that it looks really nice, like really good, high quality hotel stuff, and then you can just use that dressing for all your properties. If you're going to take a viewing at a property, just get there 15 minutes before, clean up the place, and then dress the room, and then take it back with you. If you want to separate yourself from the competition, then just make sure you don't have a dirty house or a dirty room. That's it. And then obviously have a good agent to market it. But if you've got a clean, sort of well lit room that that doesn't have cracks and blood all over the walls, then you should be okay.
The bar really is that low.
Yeah.
If you've got a HMO that's clean, you're 90% better than the rest of the market.
Yeah.
Our existing tenants may whinge and moan when we go around there and complain about the bins, but it's really, really important to stay on top of it. Don't be a hands-off landlord. Be very, very hands-on. We've also got a bit of an announcement. We're going to create a Facebook group between myself and T, and it's going to be focused primarily on Birmingham, because I feel there's a bit of a missing sort of link here. Birmingham is going to be a really, really important city, regardless of whether we are involved or not. There's so many people that have a vested interest. So we want to open up Birmingham to investment in other areas and share our knowledge, and sort of, it's not going to be directly affiliated. It's purely going to be people who want to get involved in Birmingham and invest in Birmingham, because the market's so big and the property is just really, really substandard. The mean property is just, it's really poor. You got the new landlords coming through now, and you've sort of got the older generation of landlords selling out. So there's real opportunity for everyone who wants to get involved. We're now going to answer a few questions, because we've got quite a few here. Zamar asks, how do you decide if your HMO tenants will get along together and will be a good fit? That's a hard one.
Well, and that's just being a good judge of character, I think. So if you talk to them as a person, talk to them quietly, you get a sense of what they're like. So if somebody's like a nice, quiet person, sort of not low energy, but not just running around waving their hands about, not sort of party animals, then you can tell that they are going to enjoy a property where other people who are similar to them on the sort of on that sort of energy level, where they're quiet and they just get on with things. It's more to do about that than anything else. So for example, don't put a casino croupier in who clearly drinks a lot and have wild parties, in the sort of mid-20s, into a house with 40 and 50-year-olds who just go to work in an office, gets home, do some work at home, and goes to sleep. It's really down to the individual, unfortunately, and that's when you have to talk to the prospective tenant themselves and see what they're like.
Fantastic. Well, we've had, hi Daniel, I would like to come and view some of your HMOs. You absolutely can. We have some projects coming up this year where we'll be opening up the development days, which will be free to all the Wealth Dragons. And then for those of you who are not part of the circle and members of the public, you'll have to pay your way in, but you'll get the same service as those in the Wealth Dragons that do. Yeah, and that's it really.
Yeah, just like this group thing. So with the Birmingham sort of property group, I've noticed that a lot of people are from Birmingham but are posting in other groups, which, so I think you're right. I think there is a demand there. But what I'm hoping to do with this group, if that's all right, is to make sure that it's not affiliated with anybody. So I come from a sort of I have some experience in this with creating networks with some hobby games based stuff. I think it would be nice to set up a group where it's community based, where nobody is an absolute authority in anything, with the idea that, you know, people with experience, even with people with experience, they're just there to help each other, not to sell each other anything. So I think if we can just create a group where nobody's trying to sell each other anything, but just genuinely trying to help somebody along their journey, I think that'll be really nice.
Who has an interest in Birmingham?
Yeah, who has
specifically Birmingham.
Yeah,
that's where we're putting all our eggs. And anyone who else wants to do that, or just have part of their portfolio in Birmingham, feel free to join. We'll put the link in the description, and then I'll advertise it, as will T. And hopefully we'll see you there. If you have any questions about properties within the Birmingham area, do let us know. And more than likely, we'll be asking you some questions as well. So if you want to listen to the previous episodes, check the links out that I've got in the description. Last week, Facebook was down on Wednesday, so I recorded this, the best episode ever. I promise, I wouldn't lie, best ever. And then it just didn't upload. So I was like, screw this, I'm going to bed early. So you didn't get one last week, but I feel I've made up for it for having the fantastic T here with me.
Thanks, mate.
Because no doubt I'll have him back, and we'll be talking on a whole plethora of subjects. Right, cheers, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
All right. Thanks. Bye, guys.